Hello and welcome to this edition of Defacto Review, a weekly roundup of the biggest stories shaping Mongolia. Here with us tonight is economist and commentator Jargal Defacto, and I'm Terrence Edwards. We're live on Facebook at V Television. We want to hear your thoughts, so send us your comments on Twitter with hashtag Jargal_Defacto. Coming up on the program, power struggle with the MPP threatens government reshuffle. GDP grows 5.3% in first half 2017 with coal market revival. Bottleneck at China border creates 160-kilometer traffic jam for coal trucks. Horse-loving Mongolians saddle up with a new social networking app. Our first story. Speculation about a new prime minister and cabinet continues as members of the Mongolian People's Party have begun signing a petition for the dissolution of the government. Newspapers such as Ojrin Sunin have reported that 30 MPs have signed a petition for a government reshuffle. That's about 8 short of the majority needed, and it was behind closed doors. Horal Suk and Sanja Bayar are reportedly the two most likely candidates for the job of prime minister, with possible candidates for other ministers in the cabinet also named. Analysts speculate that a complete government overhaul could create a perception of instability in the government as Mongolia takes a new president. Cracks in the MPP first began to reveal themselves after Parliament Speaker Miagam Enkbolt had a devastating loss in the presidential election. So just to get us started, can you give us a heads up on some of these possible nominees for the cabinet?
Well, there are rumors, of course.
Yeah.
But I would like to look at it with a very wide angle, what's happening in Mongolia. Because now we are somehow, whole Mongolia is so busy with elections, parliament elections, president elections, then now reshuffling the cabinet, whether who comes, who is not, ambassadors called or sent. It's big, the sort of things which does not help overall for economic development of the country. It's vice versa. They are kind of preventing the normal economic path of the country. So that's I would like to draw attention of Mongolians to this point first. Second, that events happening inside of the People's Party were the same happening with the Democratic Party, if you remember. And they changed their cabinet also every 2 years.
Yeah, and it was a bit chaotic.
Very chaotic. The main reason, so now what is the reason of this Mongolian political parties reshuffling so frequently? The issue is this political party's internal democracy and corruption issue. Until they address properly these issues, I don't think Mongolia's political will be stable. Political life will be stable. So to answer your questions is it depends on if somebody or whoever is the next leader of the People's Party, will he raise these issues of democracy, internal democracy of the party, and political financing. So if they will do it, there will be some change. Otherwise, substantially just name changes, people changes, structure changes, but not content changes in the country, in this political party. It is also, I have very doubt that a new political leader will do that because in Mongolia, the political investment is becoming very high return business. Oligarchs pay money, these political party bosses or leaders, and through that they occupy main political and high-ranking official positions, and they do whatever they want through that. Mostly it's more corrupt actions. They win concessions agreements. They send their people to state-owned companies through whom they also take money, and they keep selling the public land of Ulaanbaatar. And now, for example, Bogdul, our South Mountain piece of lands, are being retailed because they take one whole big lot and they now retail it.
Yeah, you're talking about the sell-off of protected land.
So all these things, while it's happening, we don't expect major reform in these political parties. If they start to do so, then there will be major changes which will, I hope, change political culture of this country. And without that, the corruption is so widespread that it will be the permanent situation of Mongolia of keep changing the cabinet. That's all.
Yeah. Now, we already talked about there is some perception if there's a big government change that it might cause this idea that there's chaos in the cabinet. But to go forward, is it the best option for them to just clean house, have new members, or can they keep some of them?
They cannot have new members brought because it is a matter of among the elite of this, there's 40 or so people of the People's Party. They don't want to bring new people to this elite. And now what they want is to replace this part with the new people, those who were staying without power from the beginning. They want to take over the power.
Okay.
And they found several reasons, and which the current cabinet and people deserve too. It is a matter of an issue of 60 billion Tugriks deal, which was going to happen if they could sell high-ranking political positions, depending on the minister, certain price tag. And every position has a certain price tax, and altogether it was about 60 billion Tugriks they were planning to raise, which we don't know happened or not, but the very plan of selling causes big hysteria.
Yeah. And the idea is people are selling this because they feel the perception is they take on these jobs and will collect even more money throughout their tenure of the job.
It's political investment, how they say.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it is taking quite some time.
So it's kind of interesting that this is happening now because there's nothing changed in the legislature. Mongolia still has control, and it still has control of the government. So what you're saying is it's really an upheaval within the parliament, people trying to take control of the upper echelons of the party. Is this something we can expect over the next year or so, or is this probably get settled?
In the best case, they may not touch at the end for the saving their namesake. They may not touch the cabinet, it may go, but there are so deep contradictions between those elites members inside of the political party that I think I tend to think they most probably will change. And with that change, whoever comes the head of political party, because the current head promised to resign, and the Congress will be in September.
Yeah.
Recently they have decided. And at that Congress, this party most probably will have a new leader of the party who will, the most probable candidate for a head of the cabinet, because it was the case before. Only in the case of Mr. Inkbal, he chose to be a parliament speaker.
Yes.
Because he was planning to run for the presidency, which he did, and he lost. So all the things getting together into a certain point that most probably they will change the cabinet.
Yeah. So it really looks like that loss, kind of he spent all his political capital. Now there's big changes happening since he lost. Not only did he lose, but he lost by a wide margin.
This ruling party had spent also a lot of public money for political vote purchases, if I might say. And they spent a lot of money, 161 billion tourists within 2 days even, if we were covering that story before. So you see how much they are going to sacrifice with our money, with their own money, billions, 300 or so over billion tourists was spent for just this MPP political campaign at the last presidential elections.
So they need to have a majority to dissolve the government, true?
They need...
Is it 38 seats or 39 seats?
You know, the changing the cabinet is a work of the parliament. Yeah. And to raise the issue of changing or the vote of confidence to the political, the cabinet, it requires only a quarter of cabinet members. Okay. 19. But nowadays they have out of 76 seats, they have 65, the People's Party. Yeah. And out of the 65, almost 30 have already signed that petition.
Yeah.
So it is very definite that they will discuss the issue, the parliament.
Yeah.
But that parliament will discuss probably the issue after the Congress of the People's Party.
Gotcha.
So that's what we need to watch.
We'll continue following this issue. Moving on with the economy. Economic growth accelerated sharply in the first half of 2017. The government said, helped by a revived coal market and a bailout package led by the International Monetary Fund. The country's gross domestic product expanded 5.3% from a year earlier to 12.8 trillion tugrik. That's 5.26 billion US dollars. In the first quarter, Mongolia reported 4.2% annual growth. For all of 2016, the economy expanded only 1%. That was the slowest pace in 7 years. The coal industry in Mongolia has also seen a boon from a Chinese ban on coal imports from North Korea, as well as curbs on deliveries into smaller ports. Coal exports grew more than 4 times from January to July compared with the same year, and that was about 1.4 billion US dollars. Mongolia sold 97% of its coal to China. The remainder went to Russia and the United Kingdom. So the Mongol Bank has predicted about 2.5% growth maximum. And we have a similar figure from the Asian Development Bank. The World Bank and IMF are actually thinking 0.2% contraction. At this stage of the game, who do you think is more accurate? Where are you thinking?
Recently, the State Statistics Committee says that we have a growth of 5.3%, right?
Okay.
And
that's the committee.
Yes, the Statistics Committee, but yeah, the National Statistics Organization.
Okay, for the first half, yes.
But there are many politicians say now finally economy is recovered, etc., and now it's renewed to the old path. Now we will go faster, etc., which altogether is not true, because it is just this growth is just because the growth of price of coal and our export.
Yes.
And by the way, now this year we're going to export 20 million tons of coal, and total revenue is going to be about 2 billion US dollar.
Okay.
But in 2011, when we had the highest growth rate of the economy, we have sold 20.2 million tons coal for 2.2 billion tugrik.
So we won't even get there.
See, now we are selling much more coal, 30 million ton compared to 20 million ton.
Yeah.
And receiving the same amount of revenue.
Yeah.
So the question is coming.
A little bit less, even.
Yeah, even less. And so the question is, what's happening? What's wrong with our coal? Quality is the same. So what is all this about? It's transport issue, logistics issue, whatever. We need to dig into the issue and find out why the state-owned companies are selling so cheap all this coal.
So it's worth remembering that those boom years you just mentioned, FDI was the biggest contributor, not the mining industry. A lot of that money went to the mining industry, but it was a foreign investment. So looking at today's climate, what do you make of foreign investment? How big of a contributor is it going to be?
Good questions. Foreign direct investment is something that depends on their confidence in the quality of the governance for stability of the economy. Do they believe in that? Not yet. Many indicators say it is not the time. For example, this country still receives a lot of foreign debt. We are replacing old debt with cheaper and larger and longer term debt, right? First.
Refinanced.
Yes. Secondly, refinanced, but it doesn't mean that we are financing all of it. It doesn't mean
still
that
on the hook.
Economy, yes.
Yeah.
It's still on the hook. So now that's first. Secondly, we have been paying a quarter of state budget revenue for just interest rate of our foreign and domestic debt, which is a huge burden. And this burden went down when IMF money came, cheaper money came. Now the government is not issuing, or at least not issuing to that large extent, domestic borrowing, domestic bond, which is, by the way, more than higher than the bank saving account, saving rate. So that's why banks were just doing nothing, not investing into the business and economy. They just were buying a state bond, government bond, treasury bills.
Yeah.
And which was a very big problem for Mongolian economy because people had no money to borrow. Now more or less they are borrowing, banks are borrowing, and now the issue is coming, another issue is coming. Now banks are now under auditing of the major auditing companies in the world, and they will report the result. It's according to IMF agreement we made, and according to IMF, they will submit the result in a couple months from now. But that time, our bad loan, which is today 15.3% of total loan, is 15.3 is bad and non-paid loan. It's quite high, 15%, and yet we expect under that auditing this figure could be even larger because. According to IMF warning to the banks that you should not have collateral as herds cannot be collateral, and also not clear mining licenses should not be a collateral because it damage the
it's risky. It's taking down banks in Mongolia.
And if they take out these two assets from the banking collaterals, then they may increase the quantity of the bad loan level. And if it is increased, the cost of bank is increased, they will require more own capital.
Yeah.
So we expect a restructure of Mongolian banks at the end of October.
Yeah.
If it will go in a normal way, we need Mongolian banks will need more own capital, equity, and also maybe smaller banks may merge.
Yeah.
That's the situation.
You know, I think it's worth noting that we're at summertime. This is peak activity, especially for the mining industry. So I wouldn't really expect so much more growth coming on from here. I think what we see now is a good indicator that there is going to be some growth, but I don't expect 5%, 7% like we used to see.
You know, even if it comes 5% or so, it has to do with probably export of coal and copper.
Yes.
And
it's speculative.
Which are not the value we have created.
Yeah.
It is just commodity price change driven growth.
Yeah.
And when the real growth comes to the economy, that means we have more prosperous private sector.
Yeah.
Private sector is creating more jobs because their price should be not regulated by the state. There should be normal competition.
Yeah.
Without those things, economy cannot be recovered.
Yeah, if Mongolia wants to see larger growth, it's going to have to put on some new projects, at least in the mining sector. I think the president has a good idea. He wants to expand agriculture. But how about tourism? How about manufacturing? These are all things Mongolia can actually do, but it's been a lot of promises up to now. It's been a lot of, we'll get to it, but you know, we're shutting down mining projects rather than opening. We're not doing much to help tourism. We're holding back on things like perhaps a casino, perhaps allowing more people into the country more easily. Now, we have a new airport, but it keeps getting kicked down the road when it'll actually open.
It's a year or so from now, in the best case, they say.
No manager even named.
Exactly. The other reason also is state is becoming larger and larger in the economy. They keep creating state-owned enterprises, all of which are working with the loss and somehow surviving. With the political change, they change CEO of the state-owned companies. It's like actually, as we say now, it is not state-owned companies, it's political parties-owned companies. That's where, this is one of the factors what takes away the competition from the private sector.
Okay, we got to move on though. We were on that for a while. We're not going too far away from the coal industry though. A queue stretched 160 kilometers in the Gobi Desert because of bottlenecks at the Chinese border last week. The website sxcoal.com has reported longer wait times for customs to clear Mongolian coking coal for export into China ever since the Naadam festival. It now takes at least 1 month to finish customs clearance at Quanchimadol. I do not speak Chinese, sorry if I killed that.
This is calling Mongolian.
Yeah.
ganz mot kashun sukhait.
Yeah, Gashon Sokhet, I can say. A much longer period compared with the previous 2 weeks. The number of coal trucks from Mongolia into China declined sharply from 1,400 in July to 600 in mid-August. Daily coal imports also plummeted to 40,000 tons or so from 100,000 tons. Trucks loaded with Mongolian coal needed to wait 2 to 3 days before being unloaded at border crossings, according to one Chinese trader. So is this something you think the government's taking seriously? Have they proposed any solution?
And they have to, because it was one of
Forget
the
about that
decisions.
growth we just talked about if coal's not going through.
It was a decision of the cabinet last Wednesday. What happened was, now, as you said, now the jam is twice more. It was 60 kilometers, now 160 kilometers.
Yeah, it's more than
days are
twice.
twice longer. The reason was, it turned out that they go through very slowly, as you have described. The reason was also there was a Tsagang Hat, a place 10 years ago created, where they have customs bonded warehouse they made. They check there. The cars come, this is the border. We come here, in Mongolian side called Kashun Sukhait, the other side called Kansmot. Okay, both, it's Mongolian name, also Indo-Mongolian name. So from here, coal goes 200 some kilometers away, but now
Sure.
160 kilometers, cars are standing there. And, but there was a, before, as I said, so-called Tsagang Hat, White Rock, a place where they were piling coal before, and from there they check it, and they had a short road to cross the border. And on this short road, they have been misusing that road. There were certain smuggling, many things. And Chinese were refusing because they found out they were a smuggler or whatever. And then they have stopped at Mongolian side, and the whole things go through border very slow on Chinese side. So now what's happening? Government says cut down, close this Tsagang Hat place. But now question comes, why this government, well, Mongolian government is cutting out this already kind of small village, 10,000 people.
Yeah.
Surviving, living there, being kind of logistics for this many thousand cars. And now they are closing it, and the governor of the Aimak and local people are not happy. They are protesting. Why? They have recently invested 1 billion tugriks to make better that settling.
Yes.
But now then suddenly they stop it. The question is why you are closing it if you will close it, why you have opened it? How long do you see when you make this sort of political decisions, cabinet decisions? This is the first question raised. But most importantly, all the by the way, the Mongolian government asked the related ministries to buy X-ray at the customs so that they can see through all these cars through, and they just see it, and if it's okay, they go through. It's very expensive. I don't know, several dozens, millions dollars equipments they're going to buy.
Yeah.
But
I wouldn't be surprised if they want us to buy Chinese too.
but the issue is now even more. It is disclosing one point. It is again the need of the railway transport,
Yeah.
which is not there. Only some pile of earth is there, nothing. So when we will make this railway, first. Second, what kind of will be the gauge? Because our president is against the Chinese gauge.
Yeah.
But the third issue, who is going to invest into this project? If we borrow money and invest there, what happens if China one day says we will not buy? So who will take weighing these risks?
Yeah.
Nobody. So that's the questions, I think, in front of Mongolians in terms of that happens.
You mentioned the gauge. I actually asked the president one time in an interview about this. Yes, and he said the parliament had voted on it, and he'll stand by the parliament. I hope he stands by that decision, but we'll watch and see. I want to get to our final segment of the evening. A team of Mongolian mobile developers is trying to innovate centuries-old herding practice with a new app called Oyach, that means seller, designed for horse breeding and herders. The iOS app is a product of the co-working spaces, hackathons, and startup accelerators now abound in Ulaanbaatar. The app enables horse owners to carefully document each animal they own by allowing them to upload up to 10 photos per horse and input data on their ancestry, race, history, age, sex, and health conditions, according to a report from Vice Media. The horse occupies an irreplaceable role in Mongolia herders' everyday lives and remains a national symbol of Mongolia's distinct nomadic heritage. Accomplished racehorses are commonly sold for breeding by city slickers and herders alike. So I want to ask you right off the bat, is this something you would download?
Yes, I have downloaded. It's so far only on Apple.
Yes.
You go Apple Store, download Oyach, and then now I saw it. And it looks great because for a person like me who doesn't know all horses by heart, so it's important to know which horse belongs to whom and how old the horse, what was the father, mother of the horse, and what was his achievements, etc. And I thought, here we go. And it's just these achievements of IT revolutions coming to Mongolia a long time ago. Now they're coming to our to every part of our life. Now our horsemen, they can use that horse for database, for everything. The same we can do for our wrestlers. And we want to know, because the people who love wrestling, they know all by heart. But those like me, we want to know what is the origin of that guy, what was his training, achievements, all these medals, everything. The same with also the archery, which altogether makes our 3 main games in Mongolia. And not only that, I think, in many things, our properties, many things can be used. By the way, we'll have a guest on Defacto interview next week.
Your other program?
Yeah, young woman.
Not this one.
Who made a mom program. This application helps the mother to take care of the baby in correct way, and really recording of what she had done and what was the result, photo, everything. And a very wonderful application is made also in Mongolian language. And there are several other applications Mongolians are doing. And I think this is one of the way Mongolians can go to the bigger market, world market. And, along with all these applications, this sort of applications we talk about, helps Mongolians to be more productive, more saving their time for their own benefit, family. So it's great, and it's, I think, good start and good continuation, I should say. And I think this is the way how we want to see our youngsters, young people be engaged.
So real quick, we haven't seen a ton of IT make a dent in the economy yet, but do you think this is something that could actually be acquired or maybe get listed on the Mongolian Stock Exchange?
Well, probably not Mongolian Stock Exchange.
Probably not, no.
Too small. But however, I think this is the way of diversification of Mongolian economy today. And this is the way where education institutions should aim at. That's how I see that.
Okay, I'm going to let you have the final word right there. That's our program for the evening. I hope our briefings give you a leg up as you enter the new work week. Any final thoughts?
Thank you. Have a good evening. The program will be tomorrow on our website, jargaldefacto.com. And please, welcome to make a comment. Thank you.
Good night, all, and Batar.